Alrighty. Hello, everyone. I put on metal because I figure metal music is a nice, appropriate thing to hear in the background while you're talking politics. And I got the classification on because Twitch has determined I feel like that talking politics at all is bad. So I'm just not going to fuck with it. I'll just leave it to protecting my own ass. I really want to spend tonight talking about polling data, and I want to look at information. I don't really want to tell you who to vote for, who's going to win. I don't think I can tell you who's going to win. I can give you what I usually call my 55-45. I worked in politics until I started working in government in 2017. From about 2013. So when I first went to grad school out here in DC, one of the first jobs I found was working as a congressional intern. I worked as a congressional intern during the government shutdown in 2013 for Congressman Doug Lamborn until the end of the shutdown. I dealt with heated phone calls. Congressman Doug Lamborn is a Republican of Colorado. I think it was the 5th district. I don't know what he is now. I got into his office because I was an Eagle Scout. Hence the eagle imagery. I got eagle imagery all over the place. In my office, in my home life, I love eagles a lot. Hence why I have an eagle figure. But I was going to work there just to see how Capitol Hill worked, and then the shutdown occurred. And I spent most of the time answering phone calls, and that was a thankless task because Congressman Doug Lamborn presided over a mostly military district. So during the National Defense Authorization fight, which was the NDAA Act, before it was fully resolved, it was not yet passed. It was something Doug Lamborn was trying to push through. The Obama administration took a unilateral decision, despite the fact there was nothing saying they needed to shut down all of the commissaries that supported military bases, which, if you don't know what a commissary is, long story short, it's a grocery store for military personnel. Veterans can also access it, depending on if they're still near a base or not. With the idea that it provides cheaper goods and clothing for military families, so that way they don't have to spend as much on food and clothing for their families. Which meant that a lot of veterans who were supported by that in Colorado lost an affordable way of buying groceries for themselves on their Social Security and their veteran benefits, which is a nightmare. And we were getting 80 calls a day. So when the NDAA in its first iteration got passed, it was mostly about trying to make sure the military is funded in spite of the lack of funding across the government. The NDAAs that have gone on later on, the National Defense Authorization Acts that have gone on since then, have expanded that to uncomfortable levels. And that's not what I'm here to talk about. But I worked during that time for the congressman. When the shutdown ended, I was sort of disillusioned with working Capitol Hill, as one gets, realizing that it's a toxic work environment where they pit staff against each other to compete for honestly shit wages. If I had become the legislative assistant, I would make about $42,000. What that is in comparison to what my friends who are mechanics in Illinois is about $8,000 less than they make. And they don't have an easy life on $50,000 in Illinois. DC is way more expensive, specifically housing. Food is way more expensive. $42,000 is not a livable wage. The LD makes about 50. The communications director in his office, I think, made 55. And the chief of staff made 70, if I recall right. The chief of staff was living good. You could live on $78,000. Not great. But if you're commuting back and forth with the congressman, you can get expenses paid that way. So the chief of staff can make it. The communications director probably can make it. She was a woman. She was a spouse. Her spouse had an income. So she was okay. I don't know how the LA who hated me as his intern, I don't know how he ate. Because he talked about having kids and a wife who was still in school. I don't know how he did it. But he was bound and determined to hate me and get me out of there. And I didn't like the office anyway. The scheduler was really nice. His communications director was pretty cool. I didn't really interact with the legislative director at all in that office. Chief of staff, I didn't really interact with much at all. And Congressman Doug Lamborn himself was a pretty nice, calm guy. He came off as like a dad who means well. That's about it. He said stupid shit, got himself in trouble, so I'm not going to defend his words. But at least in the office environment, he was not abusive. He was not critical. He was pretty empathetic with his staff. He was far better than what I heard from other people I knew at Capitol Hill at the time. When it came to PTO and work off, he was perfectly content to let his staff say, "Hey, I'm out sick for the day." He still paid them, which is good. Um, I can't speak to his entire character, and I'm sure if you're in Colorado, you may have a reason to hate Doug Lamborn. That's neither here nor there. I was only in his DC office. I don't know how his Colorado office was. Um, so from there, after the shutdown in 2013 ended, I met on the train a Masonic brother. Had a good conversation with him. Literally looked at him and said, "Hey, I don't want to be needy, but if you have any advice on how to get out of a bad job, uh, let me know. I'm looking for work. I'm looking for paid work." And he gave me his business card, and I started working at an immigration think tank. I was there until May 2014. I don't remember if I know I was there for Christmas. I went home for Christmas, but I was working for him during Christmas. I think the Hispanic Leadership Network ceased to exist in spring. It was I'm a minority. I'm of Mexican descent, and it was a political organization meant to help cater to Latino interests in politics and also help support Latinos running for politics. I had a lot of fun with that job. And then the funding got cut, which sucked. Then I went to go work at the State Department in summer from May to August of 2014. Basically, I was going to grad school, so my grad school was a night school primarily. We started classes at 1 and went till 9 at the end. And so I think I tried to do work in the morning and then go to work class at night. The State Department was a really interesting job. I worked logistics management. It helped me understand government sucks. I was a contractor technically. Helped me understand contracting sucks. Helps me understand contracting companies suck specifically. Contractors can be nice. Most of the contractors I worked with still are nice people. Contracting companies are fucking awful, and I hate them as an institution. I hate that they exist. They are a form of largesse off the government teat, and in principle, I hope one day they cease to exist, because they're mercenary and they do not favor the national interest. That's my political take on that. They do not favor the national interest. They should not exist. They should not be a principle of it, but because we have a capitalist society, we argue that some elements of government can be privatized, and what that winds up dealing with in terms of military and government is that we privatize government activity, which is really weird to do. It seems like, prisons are an obvious one you don't want to privatize because, people being paid to repress, wow, that doesn't seem like it's going to go well if it's not state monitored. But it's really hard to think about the banality of the evil of bureaucracy being privatized until you see it executed. So, for instance, since I worked in logistics management, we dealt with contracting companies that dealt with moving cargo for state employees, because I worked at the Department of State. There's nothing more evil than people who willfully take a contract, take the government's money, and then intentionally break state employee product so they get their contract removed, or because they haven't had a bad incident, go, well, we're just not going to deliver for the rest of the year because the GSA's rules, the Government Services Administration, which dictates how companies can get in trouble, because their rulings say as long as we keep this one bad act up, it's considered only one violation. So we're going to fail to deliver for the rest of the year. And that happened a lot. And it was disillusioning. It made me realize that fundamentally, how we police ourselves is bad, but it also helped me realize that the government A lot of people want government to be cutthroat in how it processes and handles its spending and its employees. But the government tends to choose a mercy approach because the government understands fundamentally you don't get people working in the government if it's not merciful, because the government will always be worse in terms of income and benefits than most of the private industry. It's the view. In principle, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if you talk to most of my contractor peers with my current job, most of them would be horrified and think that you're crazy for thinking that's the case. After the State Department, I went to go work at a car dealership near my apartment. My dad had a stroke, and I went home thinking I might run for office. I petitioned in my home area in Illinois, got the ballots, started getting signatures, and then the superintendent of my high school decided to enter the race, and I realized that I was never going to be able to win. And then I watched him get disgraced by Chicago dark money for a scandal that he had no control over. It did happen on his watch while he was superintendent, but it didn't break as a scandal until he was retired. It broke as a scandal about 5 years after he retired. So it wasn't like he knew about it during his time as superintendent and could have done something about it. And it was a sex scandal, and it was pretty awful because it involved a family friend who his brother was the teacher involved, acting inappropriately. And I love that guy, not the brother, my friend, like a little brother. And God, I don't know how that is for him to know that the brother you looked up to your entire life is that way. It's pretty awful. But it wasn't my superintendent's fault. But I watched a PAC with no tracing other than Chicago and being tied to the governor around her obliterate him for it. And then I went to go work for a media watchdog group, which, in the rise of Trump in 2015, was opposed to him. A lot of the staff there were Ted Cruz fans, and so they were obviously conservatively aligned, but they had other interests. And I worked there until Christmas when my dad died. And because I was kind of a rebel back then, my thing that I was doing was Trump is going to win, and none of you realize it. And I'm sorry, I'm not telling you because I want him to win. I'm seeing what's happening. I went home for 2 weeks after my dad had his stroke. And I talked to people, and I saw people across the board say they were going to go vote for Trump in 2016. I got back out to the watchdog group, and I told people that, and I got yelled at. I got glares. The executive producer for Newsbusters, where I wrote for some time, and I got into an online Twitter fight with Mark Ruffalo. I met Communism Kills, and I got balked by Nick Fuentes during that time. Yeah, my highlight reel is pretty cool. The executive producer hated me because of the Trump commentary. Even though I wasn't a Trump advocate, I don't like Trump. I call Trump Nebuchadnezzar in my private life. If you don't know the Bible, Nebuchadnezzar is the king of Babylon, of which Daniel in the lion's den is tied to. Daniel infamously told King Nebuchadnezzar, "You are no god, and I will not worship you." And Nebuchadnezzar went, "Fuck you, I am a god. Go in the lion's den," and then the lion's den eat him. And that was part of a plot by the advisors around Nebuchadnezzar to make Daniel look bad because Daniel was a Jew, not a Babylonian, so he couldn't be loyal. And then Nebuchadnezzar, after that, while he's rewarded Daniel, given him power and prestige and advising him, then tries to throw his friends Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego into a furnace and torch them because they refuse to worship his statue. So Nebuchadnezzar, 2 strikes of thinking he's God when he's not. And in his last days, Nebuchadnezzar went mad, wandering into the desert, as it were, babbling incoherently. And when he was toppled by the Persians, he basically was a shadow of himself. Sound familiar? Yeah. So that's why I call Trump Nebuchadnezzar. So after that, I spent a year after my dad died and losing that job. I did political TV stuff. It was all indie, short time stuff out here in DC. It was fun, but my dad was my political beating heart for the longest time. He was the way I stayed toxic free of politics. He's the reason why I stayed healthy when I dealt with politics, because I'd get on the phone with him immediately on the way home, and we would talk the hour I drove home. Every day. Until the day he died. And it was the closest I got with my dad. Not that we were ever bad, but in the midst of him having a stroke, he wasn't great at talking, and it was helping him. Though I worried at times that he was never going to be him ever again. He was going to be a new him. And that was hard to convey and talk about with my family. But at least I was starting to hear the shades of him come back. And then he died in December 2015. I have always liked metal music, but that day he died, December 11th, turned into December 12th as people came over and mourned with us that night. And when everyone left about 3 or 4 a.m., I put on the music on YouTube, and Parkway Drive's Vice Grip played. And I grew up very religious, I still am. And Vice Grip is a beautiful song. It literally has my dad's words in it. Parkway Drive is an Australian band. I have never been able to see them in concert because, to my knowledge, they've not played in the Midwest or the East Coast. Fuck you, Parkway Drive. I love you. I want to see a concert, goddammit. I want to see a concert in D.C. someday, or, Jiffy Lube Live in Virginia, or Silver Spring, Maryland. Come on, give me something. I've seen every Sabaton concert, but come on. Anyway, Vice Grip has my dad's speech. It's his mannerisms. And it caused me to try to continue on without him. I did it for about a year. I wrote op-eds. Maybe at a time when I feel comfortable with revealing who I actually am. Not right now. Those op-eds can get printed and put up on my social media. I'm not comfortable talking about it. The newspaper that I wrote them for is a dead newspaper, so a little hard to find the archive for them because they were rarely ever put online. Let's go. Media before the internet. It's really weird to think about, probably for Zoomer people, but most people still hadn't transitioned to a fully online media apparatus for talking news and politics in 2015, 2016. It was happening, but it wasn't finished yet. So my hometown had a newspaper. It's dead now. And the subsidiaries part of it is, I think, dead too, or only online. Anyway, I wrote a bunch of op-eds for them, which got me a transition team invite in 2016 when he won. And I had already applied to work at the agency I am at now. And my mom and I had a long talk, and I was like, there's no political future in working for this man. I have always marketed myself as one who will tell you the truth when you know I am right, and you know I am on the opposite side. I am routinely a fan of being the guy who says no, the guy who is the naysayer in the room. I think there's a valid use for people like that in politics to keep you grounded in reality. Something that's lacking a lot in general right now. There's a lot of people not in reality, which is frustrating. That's a nonpartisan state, by the way. 3-minute ad. For those on YouTube, what I'm doing right now is waiting for the ad to come up. But I am pulling up polling data as we speak because I'm going to go over polling. I think it'll be entertaining to at least ground you in the reality of what is the election looks like. It might be shaping up tomorrow, the anticipation and the intensity of what some things might occur. I think that might be fun to cover. At least it's fun to me. Probably after I do that, I might stream a little bit of gameplay just for some wargaming, just to sort of ease out of politics. But I figure giving like a recap of who I am and what I've done might be useful. Do I think I'm worth it? I enjoyed my time in politics being about being the most unknown known person in Washington, where like people would read my stuff and I knew people were reading my stuff because I had people from the administration, the then administration, prior to that, the campaign, approach me and try to pressure me to support them. I dealt with that. I think there's a road in which I could have. I just don't think I would have survived in that White House. I'm very glad I didn't make that choice in the end. I like my government job. I get to help support troops. I get to help bring people come home alive. I get to help make people come home. Oh, the stutter's kicking in. I get to help make sure people come back home alive. And that's a really fulfilling experience. It can be really depressing. I worked Kabul. That's depressing. I worked Ukraine. God, that's not even American troops. And it's depressing. I've worked the Gaza crisis. I don't need to say any more about how depressing that is. So anyway, yeah. I don't think I'm necessarily important, and those op-eds were they're in their time contextual, so they got me a transition team offer. I rejected it, but I got free inauguration tickets, so I've been able to go to one presidential inauguration in my lifetime. That's pretty cool. If I get to go to another one someday, that'd be awesome. But it's hard to. You gotta get tickets in advance, and I got lucky because the then Trump administration thought I was a member of their transition team. So I got 2 free tickets. So me and a Latino friend of mine were dressed up as snazzy dudes, and we were in a crowd amongst mostly redneckish kind of people. They were super chill with us. I didn't have any issues. I spent that day being helped by some biker dudes from Bikers for Trump, dodge some of the protesters, because I was attending inauguration. Like, I don't like the guy, but you're in D.C., you're 26, and you don't know if you'll ever be in D.C. again to attend a presidential inauguration, and you've got 2 free tickets to attend everything. Yeah, of course I'm going to go to it. I'm going to dress up nice, I'm going to go to everything. I started working in the government in 2017. The in-between time, Trump winning and that job starting, it was a humbling time. I spent time traveling around with my mom, hearing out people, talking why they voted for people, looking at polling and going like, I felt like there was a prescient when I knew it, but I don't know why no one else believes me that it was predictable. And I started looking at polling data, and the polling data at that time showed me that I was right if you look at the right kind of polling, which is what I'm going to talk about tonight. Polling data is a scattershot of bullshit and truth. Let's just be upfront. Registered voters don't give a fuck about them. Like, RV polls are usually huge sample sizes. Lots of people voting. They're really cool, big data, and most of those people don't matter. It's rough. It's a really rough feeling when you think that. But when the data appears out that way, most RV polls are 2 to 3 points the wrong way of who wins every national election. And the problem is in 2016, no one knew that yet. Most media outlets didn't believe that. And so every RV poll came out and said Hillary was going to win. That's why that whole meta commentary of the secret Trump voter who doesn't give his polling information up. No, he just didn't answer his phone. Because most polling centers use phones to call people, your landlines. They don't do email things because you can't verify the user, but you can verify a phone landline. They don't do cell phones, not now they do, but they didn't then, because cell phones couldn't be verified because spoofing devices. So they did landlines. Guess who the predominant voter on a landline is? Old people. People over the age of 45. Guess who most people were? Registered but didn't know if they were going to vote. And most of registered people were like, well, of course I'm not going to vote for Trump. Trump's an asshole. That's the problem. Like, you need to talk to likely voters. It's LV polls. LV polls typically have less than 1,500 in the sample size. Then, if you go back and look at polling data from 2016, oh god, if you got lucky if you got a sample size over 1,000 people in a likely voter poll, because that's people who want to answer the phone. Like, you get lucky with registered voters because usually how they do RV polls is they hit the street and go, "Are you a voter registered to vote?" Yes. Show me your license. Yes. Cool. You are in the state that you say you're registered to vote. Can I ask you a few questions? That's about it. Or they phone call. With likely voters, they find out people who voted in the last two elections, and that's the last two actual elections, not the presidential, the last two elections. So the primaries in between for House and Senate, and then the presidential. And those people typically, because they're politically active, because they're voting consistently, typically answer their phone line. It's just if they have landlines or not. So the issue is that like a lot of the people who had landlines are older and didn't have cell phones, and so data got bad. It was bad. In 2020, the pandemic fucked it all up, but it didn't. Everyone thought it did, but if you look at polling data from 2020, I called it that night. Georgia was a toss-up, which is rare. Georgia has been red for all of my life. I have the 2020 results up. You can see Georgia's blue. That's mostly because Stacey Abrams did a really fantastic job of motivating and getting the black vote out in Georgia. And African American voters turned out en masse, as they should, to vote. And Georgia is one of those few states in the South that has... There's not more minority than majority ethnic diversity, ethnic demographic. But it's like 60-40. And if half of the majority population of white folk don't vote, but you get almost all of the African Americans to vote, they win the state. Which is why Trump was really pissed. Because he told people to stay home. He ruined his own bid. And, like, if you looked at the likely voter data from that night, like, he lost Arizona because McCain had died recently and his wife was reminding people that McCain hated Trump. He lost Nevada because Nevada is the state of casinos and betting on politics, and Trump was looking like a loser because of the pandemic. He lost Pennsylvania because Trump hadn't done much for the workers of the steel in there. And he lost Georgia because he didn't motivate people to get out and vote and instead doubled down on like the fear politics, which kept people home. And likely voter polling showed all of that. So like the map I made that night showed Trump not winning. And it was like, well, Georgia looks like it's going to be a rough race, and whoever wins Georgia wins. And then Biden took a couple extra points, like it wasn't close. And I was home during January 6th, but I was already in government at that point. That was a weird time. I had a lot of people worried where I was. Thankfully, I was home with my mom. She had done a knee replacement surgery, and I was helping take care of her. But I took that day personally, like I took Kabul. I fucking hate both Biden and Trump personally. Both are ineffective leaders who let horrible things happen. There's just nothing about that. It's why, like, I vote out of practical principle. I feel myself very Hamiltonian. I have loved Alexander Hamilton for most of my political life. The musical Hamilton, I've listened to most of the music from. Never seen the musical. Never seen the musical. Listen to most of the music, though. Love it. Wait for It is a fantastic piece. And I think encapsulates actually some of my own spirit with some of my friends and how they viewed their life versus I viewed my life. Sorry, I started mucus flowing, which is pretty cool. So yeah, polling data I looked at in 2016, 2020 showed me how I was going to see the election. So I have developed not a model. It's not a model. There's no data here. There's no paid to view things. This isn't Nate Silver's. Oh, there's a weighted value to every poll. Fuck you. That doesn't matter. It's literally down to 3 major categories. Is it a likely voter poll? Yes or no? If it's a likely voter poll, cool, awesome. Registered voter, fuck it, throw it out. Is the sample size more than 500? If yes, keep it. If not, throw it out. And is the margin of error something no one ever fucking talks about, but is core to scientific study? And if you talk to a hard chemist or physicist, some hard scientist, they will tell you that a margin of error that is outside the 95% threshold, the 90% threshold, is data that doesn't matter. In politics, we're happy with 80% margins. Well, most people are. I don't like them, but you need to take them for what they're worth and realize that when the margin is 4 points or less, it's a good poll. But you're like, well, if every election is roughly close, the margin's 4 points, doesn't that mean every election's unpredictable? Technically. But how you do this is every time you have a poll with data, you can put in a spreadsheet the number of likely voters and the percentage, and you can create by weight of the number of respondents that does that without weighting specific polling agencies. I don't care about their favoritism. I care about their data. If they're not falsifying their data, which it would be illegal, because it'd be it'd be guiding the election in a way that's improper, and there's some legal bounds on that too. I mean, they could put out fake polling data; it would be entertaining, but you discredit yourself almost immediately. And like RCP, which is what I have up the 2 maps tonight, RCP is pretty good about figuring out who are established pollsters and if they have a political affiliation or not, which you can see on the website for RCPs. You can see political affiliation. Some of the think tanks that do polling data are paid directly by the political parties. Some of them are independent in name. Some of them are legitimately independent. Regardless, sample size amount times the spread between the 2 candidates with a factoring for the margin can get you like an obvious field of what you expect to see. So like, let's look at Nevada, for instance, on this map here. So the 2 maps you see on your screen here are going to be maps I edit. I have recipe open up in the background though, and I'm gonna be looking at data. I also have the Duck stream up. If you don't know who the Duck is, Munchkin Ducky is my partner. They're a lovely little duck VTuber, and you should check them out if you want to see art content. They're very cute and adorable, and I love them. Future wife, you know. So anyway, so like we're looking at Nevada polling data here. So at the top, RCP average shows that Trump is winning it by 0.9, almost a full point. Spread is 48.3, 47.4. What they're doing on RCP is just taking the raw tally distribution and averaging it. They're not doing anything else on RCP. So there's a danger there. So like we're going to look at the top polls. So let's look at all the polls that they have here. They're from the 20th of October to 11/4. So like the last 2 weeks, 21st. So let's cut out the insider advantage. It's the bottom one they show there because it's not the last 2 weeks. So the first one shows up as a CNN poll. Likely voter, 4.6 is their margin of error, so immediately thrown out. Next one is Trafalgar Group. Over 1,000 respondents, likely voters, and 2.9. Shows as a tie. So our static condition right now is that it's a tie. Rasmussen poll reports over 500, margin of error is under 4. Trump wins by 2. Susquehanna, the margin of error is a 4.9, so we throw it out. Also, they have under 500 respondents. Throw it out. The next one is Noble Predictive Insights. They're on the borderline. It's really kind of sus, but it's in the data pool because it's a 4.0 and it's over 500 likely voter respondents. Harris is up by a point. Okay, so the 2 we have in here right now are Trafalgar Group, which had twice the number of respondents, a tighter margin, and it says it's a tie versus Noble Predictive, which says it's Harris is winning by a point. New York Times follows up. They don't show the margin of error on RCP site, but if you actually go look at the actual poll data itself, the margin of error is a 4.2, if I recall right, in every state in that one, because they did like It's 4 different states. They were looking at all the battlegrounds in those polls, the New York Times Siena polls, which is cool. They had the breakdown of individual states, and so like Michigan, Nevada, etc. They're all over 4. So it's got good data in theory, but the margin of error is over the limit. They have Harris up by 3. Okay, so both polls that have bad, that are sus. New York Times, because they had the margin of errors too high. Noble predicted because they have barely enough respondents. CNN has also barely the same issue. CNN showed Trump up by a point. New York Times, Noble predicted showed Harris up by 1 and 3 and 1, respectively. Okay, so in the polls that are scattershot, that we don't trust, we're going hard one way or the other, in theory. But if you think back to in like October 20th, Trump said something stupid. So the fact that it swapped the next week to Harris in terms of like the scattershot data isn't surprising. But in the back end, you also had Susquehanna going real wide with a under 500 and a 4.9, saying Trump was going to win by 6. Feels bad. That's what the hell. Like, he's going to win outside the margin. But you barely interviewed anyone, so we don't actually know if that's the case. Okay, so a lot of these polls suck. What we're left with is the Rasmussen, and he's up by 2. And with the Trafalgar, where it's a tie. The Noble Predictive technically counts where Harris is up by 1, so we're evening out at a tie. And then the Hill says it's still a tie. Okay, cool. And then Atlas, on the margin, still within the margin of error, Trump wins by 3. So the way I would read this is, Trump is... Oh boy. Nope, that's... So we're going to fix the map first. Let's get it so... I'm going to just turn every state that we traditionally know votes Republican or Democrat to with their colors.
I'm a pioneer.
Oh, hello.
I'm a human, and I'm coming. I'm animated.
Thank you, DJ. I hope you're doing well.
My heart's big. It's got hot blood.
The Alex Jones sound alerts are fantastic in the middle of talking politics. I'm doing pretty good. I'm just going over polling data. This is not a choose tell you who to vote for stream. This is a silly I like data, and I'm going to talk data stream in terms of the election tomorrow night. If you're an American, it's our Super Bowl where we choose a president to entertain us and totally make decisions that matter for the next 4 years. Fear. Anyway, so I'm just going over polling data. I have the 2020 map up of the presidential election, how it turned out, and I'm going over polling data right now up to the current day and seeing how states are going right now. And I'm going to go ahead and mark Nevada as leaning Republican. I'm not saying that Trump is going to win tomorrow night, but it feels pretty damn certain. I'm just marking most of the states that I think at this point are easy calls. I'm just going to clean up the data. And some of this stuff here kills me because it's like New Jersey. Just never voted Republican in my life. I'm not American, but I am deep with data with elections in general. Nice. So I'm just going to like quickly make these just like solidify. I'm going to make some calls on this that might be controversial. So like, it says New Hampshire's a battleground. It's not. That's fake news. Minnesota's a battleground. That's fake news. They're definitely going Democrat. They historically have gone Democrat every single time. Just like claiming Virginia's a battleground. It's not. It goes Democrat. It's the government, it controls Virginia in the sense of like most of the Northern Virginia populace votes in the government. They're members of the government. They're your military, your State Department employees, your general bureaucrat class. So they vote for the government's preponderance, which is typically Democrat. It's not. It's data. Sorry. Like, it's just the way it is. Okay, so New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico will handily go to the Democrats. And then Colorado should be a safe state at this point. So basically, like, West and East Coast typically go blue. It's New England and West Coast. Illinois is a bastion. So Minnesota has historically been a bastion. It's not right now. It's kind of weird. Colorado's typically been a bastion since weed was legalized 10 years ago. And New Mexico's typically a bastion, and it always has been because of Shockingly, government personnel. New Mexico has Los Alamos, one of the largest nuclear facilities in the country, in it. I'm guessing you saw that Seltzer, Iowa poll the other day. We can go look at it. I'm talking about the battlegrounds right now, but I can go look at an Iowa poll. I got no problem with doing that. Let's go look. What did Iowa show? Latest 2024 polls. Let's see. Iowa. Trump up by 6. That's funny. Insider advantage. I assume this is what we're talking about. Yeah. I mean, part of it is that basically both senators in Iowa are Republican, so it's not a purple state. A lot of people wish it was. It used to be. But both senators are right now Republican in Iowa. And then Biden and Harris have been really bad at marketing in the Midwest. They just don't do it. Democrats have a really bad habit of treating the Midwest as flyover country, and data-wise, that leads to losing states. It's just the way it is. Previous Democrats, like we're talking like Clinton's... No, it's the Des Moines Register one. Oh, did they... They typically make a... They have Harris up by 3. That's from... Okay, so 1028 to 1031. Des Moines Register has Harris up by 3. Emerson and Insider Advantage, which both have the same number of respondents and the same margin of error, but are both in November, have Trump up by 10 and up by 6, which is really weird for an outlier. So, RCP, Real Clear Politics, typically has access to look at the data for the poll. So let's go see. I clicked it open. Shows Kamala Harris winning support with women. I was shocked there. Yeah, that's interesting. So the independents don't really have much going for them, but it's 44-47 is what they claim. Interesting. RFK still has 3%. Some minor independents have 1 to 3%. Wonder if I can get access to the data. Because it depends on how their voter distribution works out for this poll. It's shocking that specific one has been predictive for Iowa the last 20 years. I personally don't think she'd win Iowa, but it's definitely showing a shift. Okay, so I have some uncomfortable news that okay. So for Trump people, it's like this. I think every time Trump says something stupid, it hurts him. Every time one of his surrogates says something stupid, it doesn't fucking matter. The comedian, roaster, and asshole Tony Hinchcliffe saying about what he said about Puerto Rico, I don't think has an impact as much as people want it to. Because I think what tends to happen is people go in their polling data, oh yeah, Trump's an asshole, I'm not going to vote for him. The problem is Trump can talk a really good speech. Is there anything substantial in it? No. But he can talk a really good speech. Harris cannot. And I think the issue is before her last White House speech, this was believable. And then she gave her White House launch speech this weekend. It was so bad. I watched playback of it. I don't know what happened to her. I swear when she was a California prosecutor, when she was running against Biden in 2020, she had really good quips. She was really energetic. She was engaged mentally. I swear to God, she's like on something or just doesn't want to be there. It feels really... It's infuriating to me. As someone who wants to be politically ambitious, who wants to win races if I was a politician, I don't understand her strategy. It fundamentally fucks with my brain. Wait, I thought RFK dropped. Oh, he totally did, but voters don't fucking care, Bingles. Like, the Democrats initially fought him getting on the ballot as an independent because they thought he would screw them. And then he endorsed Trump, and they're like, oh yeah, you can be on the ballot. And then he was like, well, I'd like to be off the ballot because I'm no longer a candidate. And they're like, no. because I think there's a lot of Democrats that are hoping that, voters are dumb and go, I hate both these people. RFK, check. I'd expect to see some of that tomorrow. Enough to win? No. But enough to really annoy Trump for sure. Be like, yeah, fuck him, kind of thing. I don't think it'll matter too much. But you never know. Iowa could go rogue. He had 3% of the Iowa vote in that Des Moines Register thing, which should go to Trump. Should. So it should be a dead heat. But still, I think polling data leans heavily Trump on what I've seen. And November polling data shows him winning. So unless two things happens, I don't see that happening. Kamala mobilizes the youth vote by making a statement on Gaza. I don't think that's going to happen. Kamala moves the women vote by putting out a mass messaging campaign that is consistent and strategic about abortion. I don't think that's going to happen. Kamala puts out a mass strategic campaign about LGBT rights. I don't think that's going to happen. It should have happened by now if it was going to happen in any of those three cases. I think she could mop the floor with him if she was trying. The really hard part for me is like someone who enjoys politics and enjoys the fight of the battle of politics is I don't see Kamala as fighting. I want to be wrong here. I want to see a fight. I don't mind if it goes till 2 a.m. tomorrow. I love that. I love staying up late watching, the breakdown of elections and watching people go, oh God, it's tighter than I thought it was going to be. We can't call it yet. It's so exciting. I love that shit. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm kind of disappointed by it. It's my Super Bowl, and I don't want the Patriots to win. I don't know which party is the Patriots, to be fair. I just don't like the Patriots. Fuck the Patriots. Fuck New England. But, man, come on. Fight. You're a candidate. Maybe you didn't want to be, but if you didn't want to be, you should have let Gavin Newsom be the candidate. If you didn't want to run for fucking office, Kamala, why are you in the race? You could have let other people take it. I think she, people compare her to Hillary. So the problem is Hillary was ambitious and cutthroat. Hillary knew she wanted to be president. She didn't just want the title, she wanted to be in charge. I don't think Kamala wants to be in charge. She wants the title and the prestige, but she doesn't want to do the work. That's how it's coming off. Because she's letting all her surrogates talk. And they can't save her. Because she needs to talk. She's the president. She can't do what Biden did. Biden had 30 years of a reputation of doddering old fool who means well to rely on when he started going senile. Kamala doesn't have that. Prior to being in politics, she was a bitchy, fighty, kick-ass prosecutor who put drug offenders who had an ounce of weed on them in prison for mandatory minimums for 20 years. She's like, if she was a Republican, people would be like, hell yeah, on the right. Because she hates drug offenders. She's cruel and sadistic as a prosecutor. And then, what the hell happened? I don't know. It's Kamala, yeah. What the hell happened? I was telling friends, who were very left-wing, I'm like, Kamala needed to go bad cop and let Tim Walz be good cop. He could be the doddering professor who means well, but says who's a fucking idiot, and she could be the evil, bitchy cop who wants to make people go to jail like Trump. And I think Americans would have eaten that up because she would have had personality. She would have been fiery, and people could play the race card at Trump when he says anything about her being a bitch. Anything. It's a whole slate. This is a part where I marketed myself for years in political stuff as I'm from a Republican family. I voted Republican for most of my life. Let me work for you if you're a Democrat, and I'll tell you what the other side is thinking. God, let me do that, please. Stop making these simple mistakes and let me help you win. Well, what would be in it for you? I don't know, chaos. I don't like incumbents. I typically vote against incumbents. I'm from Illinois. The Republicans never win in Illinois. I've had it for years. A built-in. Oh, the guy who's got an I next to him name because he won last time? Fuck him. Get a new guy in. So my career goal from like before I worked in government was to be Dick Morris. He was a Republican who worked for Bill Clinton and told Bill Clinton, "Here's how you win the Southern states, boss." And then Bill Clinton won the Southern states. And then when I can't, it was Pat Buchanan, it was 1996. And when Pat Buchanan, a Southern Republican, tried to market himself as more Christian and more Southern than Bill Clinton, Dick Morris was like, "Boss, I got this. Watch this. Say this totally normal thing that Pat Buchanan can't say, and then ask him to repeat it." And then Pat Buchanan went nuts and said stupid shit and lost the election. That sounds like an awesome job. Let me do it. Let me help y'all out. Let me make money. But no, that never happened. Government hired me instead, and that's. I tried. I had a couple different jobs that I tried to seek out and apply for, and I marketed myself as that. That never happened. But yeah, no, I don't think Iowa is a toss-up as much as people want it to be. So I know that's doomery. I know people may not like that, but that's my view on it. I could be wrong. That's the best part about politics is I could be entirely fucking wrong. You don't have to take my opinion as writ, you know. All right, so back to polling data. Let's go back to the little happy map that they show, and let's click on Arizona. Arizona's probably going red. I don't think I've seen a poll that came out of Arizona that votes blue. Oh, there's one, but it's outside the margin of error. It's a CNN poll from at the end of October. They've got enough likely voters in it, but the margin of error is 4.4, which I just would throw out because it's too high. Same with the Data Orbital poll, it's a 4.3. It shows Trump winning by 8, but it's way outside the margin, so fuck that. Every poll after that is under 4.0. It has more than 500 likely voters in it. And Trump's margin is 1 to 5 is the spread. And if you do the RCP average of it, he's winning by 2.5. There's one where he's winning outside the margin. Most of the other ones are him winning in the margin. So I think it leans Trump again on Arizona. It just, Kamala hasn't had a good pull out of there. What's funny is in 2020, Arizona was blue. Definitively blue. Because all the Republicans were running insane campaigns out there. They were very electionist denial. They were weirdly anti-vaccine. And Arizona is adjacent to New Mexico. It's another state with a lot of government employees in it. And those aren't just government talking points. It's the same way with Texas. She's definitely not winning Florida. Oh, for fuck's sure. Yeah, no. She's not winning Florida anytime soon. Same with Texas. I love the energy of it. People keep saying there's a chance Florida goes blue, but I say a fat chance because people keep sending X-Clan member memes and pineapples gonna like continue. Come vote this place. Keep forgetting this isn't the... Yeah, no. I like... Okay. They've been on the cope train, the Democrat Party is with Texas. Oh, since 2016 when Ted Cruz wasn't going to become president, he was facing what? He was facing God, I don't remember his actual first name because he uses Beto, but he's white and his parents gave him that nickname. He wasn't even given that nickname by other Latinos. Is it Patrick O'Rourke? You know, the scrawny Texas representative who claims he's got a Latino nickname. He tried really hard to convince everyone that Ted Cruz was going to be ousted and he could win it. No. Just no. Like, there's a, Julian Castro. I know he's in Florida. I only know him as Beto. I think his first name is actually Patrick. Beto is literally a nickname that his father gave to him when he heard all the Latino kids using nicknames. And it was like, I don't want my son to be left out. I'll call you Beto from now on, kid. But Dad, I'm not Latino. No, you ain't, but no one will know now. Yeah. It was always entertaining during the 2020 primary, watching Julian Castro just light up Patrick O'Rourke. Every time Patrick tried to play up a Latino accent, Latino mannerisms, because he really wanted to pretend he was Latino. Colin Allred also isn't winning. Was that another Texas guy? Yeah. Listen, if Texas goes purple, it's because the Republican there fuck someone in the military. That's the only way it goes purple. You get a military guy, currently fresh out of service, injured. He needs to be a war veteran with a scar. Who goes, Trump, Ted Cruz, I'm running against you, and I challenge you to a shoot-off at the firing range. And when Cruz refuses to attend, he goes, see, he doesn't defend your gun rights because he doesn't know how to use a gun. I think it's your best chance to flip Texas. Just get a gun nut blue Democrat against Ted Cruz. But other than that, I really don't know how you flip Texas, because Latino vote there has been entrenched against the drug war, because they're the people being fucked really hard. I wish you were wrong. No, you know I'm right. The worst part is they choose nerdy, too overly white, trying too hard to be minority-friendly Democrats to run. And that's not going to get the appeal. No, just admit what people in Texas want. They want to know a dude is a badass. That's why I like the congressman who has the eye patch. Keeps winning. He looks like a badass. I mean, he sounds like an idiot, but he looks like a badass, and that's enough for most voters. This is where an infamous lesson in my view of politics will come up. I'm very elitist. I do not have a very high view of the American voter. I call it beach ball politics, which is basically you're in a crowd, like at a beach, and someone throws the beach ball. They're a politician. The ball they throw up is an idea or take they have. In American politics, with beach ball politics, your first inclination when the beach ball comes to you is to hit it back or catch it, because you're about to play a game with them. Most people hit it back because they see something they like, and they're like, yeah, and they hit it back to the politician. And the politician sees it, it's coming back, goes, okay, that was a good message. Let me hit it back. Oh no, Colin Alvarez Black was a college football star and he still won't win. Well, the problem is does he sound educated? Because I feel like what you've described is, if he was a college football star, which means he got a degree. If he was like a college football star and he dropped out, because I feel like it's a token moment there. Like they were like, let me look at a bunch of things we can tick and see if it works. Which again, the National Democrat Party is really bad at that, and maybe your Texas Democrat Party is really bad at that. Again, I don't know how it's hard. There are plenty of veterans who are Democrats who have scars. It shouldn't be that hard. It can't be that hard to make Ted Cruz look white and nerdy and obliterate him. But the problem is by putting a nerdier college guy, it doesn't matter if he's black or not, by putting a nerdier guy than him on stage, he could be the most footballiest football there ever was. But if he sounds literate and therefore more intelligent than Ted Cruz, he's not beating Ted Cruz. You've got to out-dumb Ted Cruz or outgun Ted Cruz. And outgunning is easier. Because it's really hard to out-dumb Ted Cruz, in my opinion. Ted Cruz is the man who infamously, in Republican side politics, went into a room filled with people who were being persecuted during the time of ISIS. They were Christians, mostly. And told them they weren't loving Israel enough, and then walked off the stage. You can't be dumber than Ted Cruz. Sorry. So you might as well try to outgun him. You might be able to out-religion him, but I don't know how much God matters in Texas if God doesn't have a gun, you know? But yeah, beach ball politics. The idea is that the politician will, as long as the politician has someone hitting the ball back to him, he's going to keep going for it, pushing that messaging. And most Americans, once they see a person playing beach ball with another person, they want to join in. And that's beach ball politics. When peer pressure is generated not by pressuring people to think like you, but by creating positive view that your views are good. They claim it does, but it doesn't. Yeah, a gun-free God in Texas doesn't exist. Jesus has an AK-47, and he definitely would be against Waco, you know? Maybe that's what you guys could go for. Get like a Jesse Ventura-esque conspiracy theorist. Holy shit, you just need a Jesse Ventura in Texas. There you go. Make him run as an independent, and you could probably flip Texas. Just saying. It worked in Minnesota. It made Minnesota stay consistently blue going forward because Jesse was independent and pushed a lot of union ideas, and they stayed entrenched in Minnesota because everyone liked him. Just get a charismatic professional wrestler who also was a veteran. But yeah, so I put Arizona as that because, again, the John McCain effect no longer really applies in Texas. I think people want to hope it's still there, but it really doesn't. The McCains don't have the influence they used to anymore. Okay, so we're back to the table, and it looks like we have Wisconsin up. Because I already put Minnesota as leaning blue. Alrighty. Wisconsin. Wisconsin shows the RCP average shows that Harris is winning by 0.4. So less than a point, but she's winning. Let's look at the data. So Quinnipiac is the most oldest poll. It's a tie. It's really good data. It's got 1,100 likely voters. It's 2.9, so really good margin of error, and it's a tie. That's rough. Marquette is a bad poll. It's got too high of a margin of error. USA Today Suffolk poll, too high of a margin. Both were going one way or the other, so nothing informational there. The CNN poll has Harris up by 6 outside the margin, but the margin is almost 5 points. So, that's a bad poll. Morning Consult. I don't know about Morning Consult. It doesn't show the margin here, but it shows a tie. It doesn't even show the number of likely voters, so we're just going to throw that one out. American Greatness, which is a Trump-aligned polling group. It's not Republican-aligned, it's Trump-aligned. I used to know an editor at American Greatness. Has a dead heat. Rasmussen has Trump up by 3 on the margin. Marist has Harris up by 2 outside the margin, but the margin is under 4, so it's a good poll. So so again, it still looks like a tie to me. The next one is New York Siena, which I'd said before is usually like a 4.2, so it's outside the margin that we want, but still good data. Harris is winning by 2. The Hill Emerson, I wouldn't rely on the New York Times one, but it's just there's information. The Hill Emerson has it as a tie. All the data is fine. Insider Advantage has Trump up by 1. Trafalgar has Harris up by 1. Atlas has Trump up by 1. So it seems like a back and forth. Trump may be getting the margin into November. He's got 2 of the 3 on his side. But the tightest margin of error shows Harris winning. So I think for now, out of safety, we're going to go with what RCP shows, which is Harris winning. So we'll just mark that. I could probably be persuaded that Trump could have this lean towards him, but I think just on the onset, Wisconsin has historically voted blue, so my predisposition is to assume it is going blue. All right. The next one will be Michigan. So Michigan has been having a lot of issues that are, for the Democrats, related to Gaza Nightmare. So most of this has been blue until November, when Harris could have said something evidently about Gaza, and has not. And the Trump campaign has been marketing towards Muslim Americans. You can have whatever opinion you have, but the fact that the Biden administration has not put any editorial out on Gaza or the Palestinians, outside of we wouldn't do it this way, and Israel might want to restrain themselves, but not actually doing anything, is pissing people off and alienating voters. I don't know if they're voting Trump. I just say they're not voting. So RCP shows Harris winning it by less than a point, but the last 2 polls have Trump gaining ground, 1 and then 2 points. He's still within the margin, so he could still lose it. But Harris wasn't winning it easy before this point in November. All the way back to 10-20, she was still only up by a point. Her best poll she had was October 27th, where she was winning by 3 within the margin. It was a really good poll by Marist, 1,200 likely voters, 3.5 margin of error. So good poll. She was only winning by 3. So it should be hers. But they're fucking it up. So I'm going to go rogue here because the polling data shows a slide in the wrong direction for her. and we'll see how it turns out tomorrow. But for now, I would hate that. If I was the Harris campaign, I'm pissed. What the fuck went wrong in Michigan? I'm fixing that right now. Did she campaign in Michigan tonight? No, she doubled down in Pennsylvania, which is where we're going next. If I was Harris, though, my last stop would have been like an 11th hour in Michigan. Or tomorrow. God, I better be in Michigan at 7 a.m. tomorrow before like their polling stuff opens. Because this is stupid. Michigan should not be red. It should not be in play. It just should not. I don't know how you fuck that up. They're voting third parties like Green Association. No. As far as I know, like the Muslim Americans in Michigan are just not voting. They've been so hard alienated because they know Trump is pro-Israel. So they're not going to vote for him. They just don't think Biden and Harris have cojones to resist Israeli political influence. It's just the way it is. I don't think they're voting Green or Socialist because the problem with the Green in party is that they're very pro-Putin, and Putin, if you are a conscious Muslim American, Putin is the reason why Syria was a clusterfuck. So I don't think you're gonna go for the Greens, because like literally Jill Stein was in in Moscow this week, meeting with Putin and other third waivers. Doesn't it also have some protocol called David Goliath or something? I don't know. Are you talking about the protocols of Zion? That's anti-Semite propaganda. I don't know about anything else. Maybe watch out if you're watching people talk about the protocols of Zion. That is, it was at one point denial of the Holocaust. Yeah, it was an editorial claiming to be written by Jews about how they were controlling the world, but it's used by most conspiracy theorists to argue that Jews control the world. I heard something about it's like a document or manifesto. It's not real though, at least as long as you don't believe the conspiracy. But if you believe the conspiracy, it totally is real that the Jews control everything. They do not. I do not believe that. It's fucking stupid. Please don't think I believe that. But that is what the stupid thing is about. Holy fuck, is it hurt my brain. It came out in like the 60s, and it was propagated as third wave literature that was adjacent to the Soviets, so it was easy to blame the Soviets for it. But it was meant to make the Holocaust denial more tangible. That like the Jews brought it on themselves. It's fucking weird shit. So if you watch any TikToker or Twitter person and they invoke protocols of Zion, you might want to step away. And they're talking about David and Goliath specifically, like actually David and Goliath. Those are missiles. It's supposed out of a leak. I will neither confirm nor deny anything in that leak, but I think those are what you're thinking of, and those were missiles being talked about. I don't know of anything else in the context of Israel. There's IPAC. There's a lot of people talk about IPAC influence. It's the American Israeli Political Action Committee. It's Christian Zionist, Jewish Zionist, and then people who are citizens of both countries. Oh, it's called Samson Option. Okay, I will entertain myself and look this up. Surely this will not go wrong. Oh, Israel's returns. Oh, yeah. Last resort against a country whose military strength has invaded or destroyed much of Israel. Yeah. That's a thing. It's because it's presumed but never been confirmed that Israel has nukes. And Israel's Samson Option is them basically being like, we probably have nukes. Try us. Oh yeah, this is blue. To my recollection, the little Nebraska. Nebraska is the winter does not take all Nebraska, nor in Maine, nor in Maine. Maine and Nebraska are the other two where the winner doesn't win everything, and so it comes down to where the districts are. And Maine has a rogue Republican one, and Nebraska has a rogue Democrat one typically. Pennsylvania, this is an ugly time. Okay, so back in the middle of October, it's a tie. Starts to lean Trump. For a brief moment in late October, the data shows it goes to Harris. And then there's a bad poll by Echelon that shows Trump winning outside the margin, but it's a bad poll. And Marist and Milberg at the end of October showed Harris was still winning. So the Milberg one is a bad poll. It's got a 6-point margin. Holy shit, that's just not data. Oh, God. The Marist poll is good, though. 1,400 respondents, 3.1 margin. Harris wins by 2. So good poll. Middle October. Late October. It's at 10:30 is their data collection time. And then the minute November started, literally November 1, Trump is winning. 1 point. 1 point. There's a tie in the New York Times Siena poll, but we know they have bad data. It's a 4.2 margin, so we're not going to talk about that one because, again, the margin's too high. I just, even if it's close, I don't let it go in my sort of rhetoric. It needs to be under 4. Like, it's not that hard. New York Times Siena has good political scientists there. They could put out good data. I don't know what they're doing. Atlas and The Hill both have good polls. The Atlas one is strong. 1,800 respondents, a margin error 2. Trump is winning by a point. So he's in the margin, but it's a really tight margin. And he's been winning every poll in November. This is why Harris is in Pennsylvania tonight and has been all day in Pennsylvania. She's trying to fix this. I get why she's there. Also, Michigan, what the fuck, though? Like, she needs to be in Michigan tomorrow. That needs to be the end of her thing. Wherever she's doing her rally, it should be in Michigan. If it's not in Michigan, I don't know what she's doing. Okay, so that's Pennsylvania. I'm a heartburn moment. You know, if you're Kamala, you're going, why did I say I was gonna run for office? Why did I choose to be the candidate in this race if I didn't make the effort? Speaking of making an effort, North Carolina. The Democrats were, until like this week, making a big effort in North Carolina. And then there's been some scuttlebutt that they pulled out. So let's look at the data. Okay, so back at the beginning of mid-October, the polling showed it lean Trump. There's a strong poll from Marist. They're a good polling entity. 1,200 respondents, 3.6 margin. Trump's winning by 2. So it's still within the margin, but he's winning a decent amount. CNN has a bad poll. Local television station with Survey USA has a bad poll. Fox News runs one. It leans Trump barely. It's okay. Trafalgar runs one. Trump is winning outside the margin. Panic. Morning Consult, we don't know what their data is, so not going to look at it. Rasmussen, Trump is winning on the margin. Panic. East Carolina University, good polls, over 1,200 respondents, 3-point margin. Trump is winning by 2. So that's a university poll. It's not a company now. It's a university poll. Trump is winning by 2. Panic. What are you doing, Kamala? New York Times Siena, we've been throwing it out in every state so far. It's the one rogue Harris poll that she wins in November. The other 3 that come after it in November for North Carolina all are decent polls with Atlas Intel with a 1,200 under the margin for 4.0. They're all 3s. Trump is winning all 3 of them. So this is just going Trump. Like, okay, so Michigan and Pennsylvania are fighting states. She has a chance in them if she makes some kind of effort. She could flip them. But she's in the situation now where she needs to flip both. Because Georgia's not going to be good news. Like, we're going to get to Georgia, it's not good news. So she needs these 2 to win. And I don't know if you've noticed something about the mystical numbers there, but the mystical numbers are not good if it's a 270. We are going to have the ugliest lawsuit election if this is the night. But she needs them at this point. If she could take Michigan and Pennsylvania, she might get Nevada. You know, like, there she'd win. She doesn't need Georgia anymore. If she wins Georgia, that'd be really nice. You know, hand it down. Be really nice. I'm about to give really bad news on Georgia, though. So I was talking about Stacey Abrams in 2020 masterfully motivated African American voters to get out, while Trump told all of his primarily white voters in Georgia to stay home because of COVID, and why would you get out and vote early? Why would you do anything to win? I would hope ECUs, how many of these polls are actually capturing data for anyone under 50? That university one out of North Carolina probably did, Shaman. It probably had a fair amount of 25 and under. But It's the thing I always talk about polling is that, like, I think the Gaza crisis is alienating most people under 30 anyway. So anyone who is independent under in that bracket is probably not voting. Anyone who's under 30 and has a staunch political opinion, they're not going to vote. They're not going to show up in the polling data. But I don't think. I think there's an uncomfortable amount of people who are young and in the middle, see themselves as centrist or independents, without a whole lot of alignment because they don't want to be aligned, and they're probably standing off of this election. Kamala could have energized them. She could have. Tim Walz could have energized them. I think there was a hope that would have happened. But I think lacking big... Like, there's been some effort to push abortion as a major issue, but I don't think the way they're pushing it is strategic. You don't see a lot of marketing in social media for them. YouTube advertisements don't tend to show that kind of stuff. The Kamala campaign has been marketing towards mainstream television still a lot, which, again, I think that it shows a lot of dinosaur mentality in the campaign team. I don't know why it's there, because I don't think Biden had that. But I think this gets to an uncomfortable thing where, like, Biden hasn't done a lot for Kamala to run. He's definitely making sure Harris is standing by herself. And I think because of that, that means Harris doesn't have access to Biden's campaign team. I think there is no love lost in that White House. And Biden is like, well, they fucked me from being president, so fuck you, I'm not going to help you. I think he's a bitter old man who in his senility is dooming Kamala's efforts to win. That is my hot take. I have no information on that. That is just me watching the dynamic of the two and how this is played out. I just don't see that playing out. So I think, one, Gaza has muted a lot of the young voter population. Two, I think abortion demographics and marketing has been really poor on social media platforms. Three, I think Biden and Harris being really stupid on TikTok with doing silly stuff instead of marketing, political marketing, has hurt them. Like, if this was Obama would have eaten that shit up. He was good at strategic marketing. His team was fantastic. I don't know why Biden didn't hire them, and I don't know why Kamala didn't hire them. It's like Harris hired the Hillary team, and she's got Hillary as a surrogate. It's really fucking weird. I'm going over basically, Shaman, my rules for polls. When you want to look at polls, and if you're thinking they're good or bad, this has held out for me for 2016, 2020, and I think it'll hold out for 2024. You want to look for polls with more than 500 respondents who are likely voters. So throw out anything that's registered voters. Fuck them. Because registered voter polls don't account for young people. They're mostly old people sitting at home with their phones. So don't look at registered voter polls. Likely voter polls typically are interviews, stuff like that. And they're not dinosaur, always. So that issue isn't as much of one. Likely voters can be like walk-up, like university stuff. So there's a reason to take a chance on them. And then if the margin of error is under 4.0, and I was saying earlier, I don't know if anyone heard it, but like with hard science, your margin of error typically has got to be 95 percentile or 90 percentile at the worst. And in political science, your margin of error just needs to be 80th percentile. If you don't know what that means, it basically means that most data is useless if the margin is if the margin is over 4 points, because you're not learning anything. An 80% acceptable threshold means that so the margin of error is 4 points on the poll. That's what they're saying. In science terms, we would call it standard deviation. And if your standard deviation is 4, that means your poll has to swing one way or the other 8 points and cover that gap, which is really bad. But it's an acceptable loss in politics. So I try to reduce that by keeping it under 4. So if I get a 2 or a 3, 6-point flip is rough, but it's usually actually the margin of it actually matches 2 standard deviations. So it's a little bit more palatable. It makes me uncomfy. I'm not going to pretend it works every time, but I got Georgia right last time. and I got Trump right winning in 2016. And in 2016, I got called a fascist for that, and in 2020, I called Rhino for that. So I get political insults when I'm right. So I'm going to stake my claim on it. So yeah, my 55-45 wager that what I'm saying is correct is that, you look at polls with more than 500 likely voters, you look at polls that are only likely voters, and you look at polls that have a margin of error of 4.0 or less. And the more respondents or the tighter their margin, so like getting close to 2, fantastic. I'll look at those more. So like Marist earlier was showing up hot with the 2.0 margin. Man, that's sexy. That means that whatever you're telling me, this is almost fact. And considering that most of the people responding in polls these days, since 2020, a lot of polling firms have made a deliberate effort to try to get a younger age group. They used to not care about that so much, but after 2020 and 2016, they've made a better effort to not be dinosaur. So Trafalgar, Atlas, it looks like this cycle, they're new to me. But Trafalgar and Marist were pretty good historically to me in 2020 and 2016. So if you're only looking for companies, Trafalgar is owned by a Republican, or it works with the Republican National Party, but their data makes Republicans look bad sometimes, so I like them. And then Marist is tied to a university. I don't remember what the university is. It's Marist something usually, but Marist has good polling data. So like if you're really skeptical about polls, it's understandable. Most people are. They told me the polls were wrong in 2020 when I told them Trump was going to lose, and then he lost. And they told me the polls were wrong. Trump was going to lose. I knew Trump was going to lose in 2020, and they told me the polls were wrong. Trump was going to win. And then in 2016, they told me the polls were wrong, and Trump would lose. And, I got that right, too. I feel pretty good about the polls. I'm not necessarily telling you it's going to be 100% fact. That's why I like the lean map better. But I think it's important to understand that humans are predictable. As a cohesive mob, we are really bad at change and we're really bad at consistency, but we're not bad at predictability. We will be erratic, but our erratic behavior is pretty predictable when we're in a crowd. It sucks, but it's the truth. Human individuals can be outstanding and wild and break the initiatives and break the conditioning and stuff like that. But you put 5 people with you, and your brain cells diminish greatly. There's a joke about meetings in the government where, like, the minute you have 2 or more people in a meeting, the amount of brain cells for the next person added exponentially decreases in terms of functionality. And that's how the way Americans are with voting. You get enough people together in a crowd, all you have to do is hear one person go, fight, 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 and the entire crowd is cheering it, and you don't know why. Like, I was a state delegate in 2016 in Illinois, and I got to be that dude surrounded by everyone going, yeah, Trump, 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 and me going, I don't want to fucking be here. And I kept my stomach, and I just sat there with my head down, and I had people looking at me weird that I wasn't pumping my fist shouting Trump. It's brain cells be diminished. Like, prior to that exact moment, I had people being like, oh, I don't really love Trump. I know we're going to vote for him because we're all Republicans, but I don't really love Trump. The next moment, they're going, Trump, 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 like crazy people. So, yeah, like, I know it's easy to hate polls, but, the media will talk about the wrong polls. If the media tells you, this new poll shows this, take a breath. Remind yourself, the media is consistently wrong, both Fox News and CNN. They're consistently wrong about everything. And go look at RCP and see if the polling is consistent with the new one that just dropped. If it's not, go, okay, this could be reality. It might just be fiction. And see what the data of the in-between is. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what station it is. They're just trying to market the antagonism between everybody. So it's just important to just breathe. Breathe. I had a friend message me in a panic about the fact that I kind of doom said that Trump will win earlier last week. And I understood their anxiety. And I had to remind them that Trump in 2016 did nothing. I repeat, he did nothing. There were tax cuts. There was a new NAFTA. But he did not pass any new laws. He passed in judges, and judges have impact. So I'm not going to discount that. But that wasn't him. That was the Republican Party. Those judges were chosen, and he was told to push these one. And he even admitted that, like, because when Gorsuch went wild on something and he didn't like it, he's like, "Oh, I didn't necessarily choose Gorsuch." And it's like, well, you put Gorsuch forward, and then Gorsuch was like, "Yeah, I think Native Americans are cool," and started voting with the Native Americans and stuff. And Trump did not like that. And then when Kavanaugh came up, he was just like, "Oh yeah, Kavanaugh's a party guy, but he's like a party guy," and like meaning that yeah, Kavanaugh's drinking stories and issues that got him in scandals were his own problem, but also he's a party guy. Like Trump was basically like, Mitch McConnell told me he'd be good, so I went with him. So the thing that Trump advertises as his own big story piece isn't his; it's the party's win. So what did Trump actually do his own? He shot some missiles at Syria because he didn't like them barrel bombing. Okay. He shook hands with Kim Jong-un, which is a big deal. Nothing came out of that, but he did more diplomacy on North Korea than we've seen in a lifetime. Then he insulted KGU, and they had the little, military escalation and fears of nuclear warfare. So, I mean, there was that paranoia, but a lot of the evil associated with him is tied to the people around him. But there's something that a lot of people forget about, is that the entirety of the first term of Trump was entirely chaotic, filled with people constantly betraying him and betraying each other. He went through 4 chiefs of staff in a year. Oh shit, I can't remember his name. Oh, Scaramucci. Scaramucci is an amount of time. 28 days? Was it even 28 days? No, I think it was shorter. But the Scaramucci became a technical term for the amount of time. One, because it was the amount of time Scaramucci was as the chief of staff. Now I've just derailed you. How the congressional elections looking? Oh, fuck me, man. That's probably going red. I don't want to look at that shit. That gets depressing, because that's a lot of micromanagement. At least I can give some people optimism about tomorrow on their side of the fence with the presidential stuff, but Congress is probably going red. Senate, I don't know. I don't think congressional Republicans have fucked the pooch too hard. And if Trump wins, he's probably getting some stuff with him. So I would imagine that the first 2 years would be aligned with him. The Senate, I know, is ugly. There's a Senate race in Florida that's supposed to matter, but it looks like Rick Scott's winning that currently. I don't know if there's any. I can look it up in a moment. Let me finish looking at Georgia. Let me give the bad news on Georgia. Okay, so I was hyping up that Georgia's bad. That's because, like, the last time I looked at Georgia, it has only Trump winning polls. There's one from the New York Times, Siena. We talked about them before. They're outside the margin of error. That has Harris winning by a point. But every other poll has Trump winning. There's one tie by Marist. Oh, it's a good Marist poll. It's under 4.0. Almost 1,200 people filled in for the poll. It's a tie. So it's maybe hopeful. East Carolina University, though, has Trump winning by a point. And that was 2 weeks after. Or a week after. So, and November, Trump still has is still winning by a point or more. So that's what I was saying. Bad news. So, like, right now, on paper, based upon where the polls ended at tonight, this is the map. It's not close. It's ugly. And while Trump is winning in the margins in those 4 states, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, they've all been leaning in his margin favor for the last week, which is bad. It's really bad. And, like, Wisconsin is a fight. I'm giving it to Kamala because I deference. She was winning recently, so I'm just going to lean to her on that. The national poll they have showing here, I could click on that one. That's probably not good news, because the national poll should lean Democrat by like 2 or 3 points, because there's more, there's more Democrat voters in the country, but they're in bubbles, so they're less spread out, which means they have less impact. The Atlas poll, that was 2,700 people, margin of error of 2. Trump is winning by a point. What the fuck is going on, Kamala? This should be red flag city. Black flag city. Get somebody in here. Fire your campaign team. Holy shit. Fire the campaign team. Get people in here. You have 24 hours to fix this. Exploding. He's been in power ever since I can remember. I'm sorry, Vanina. Rick Scott is a lich. He looks like a lich these days too. I saw the interview he was doing on Fox News. They didn't listen to it, just saw him, and he looks more skeletal than I've ever seen him before, which is impressive. It's not often you see skeletal-looking GOP people who are under like 70, but man, Rick Scott's really glitching out early. With respect, maybe he got his level 20 power up already, and he's swapping over real quick to being a lich like Mitch McConnell. But yeah, no, bad news. How did you fuck this up? Like, look at the from 2020 to 2024. All the things that helped Biden win have been lost. He took Nevada. Arizona was an anomaly. He took Nevada. He took Michigan. He took Pennsylvania. He took Georgia. Kamala needs them. Pretty much all of them. Ow. It's just... You ever think about bad politics and like how people just kind of fuck it up willfully? This is what it looks like. It just feels intentional. Like... So anyway, bad news aside, let's look at Senate stuff, because that can't be worse, Smile. Latest Senate polls. Pennsylvania. The Atlas Intel poll. So we've determined from this set of nights Atlas might be really good. We'll see if Atlas holds up after this election. If Atlas is correct, my screen that I'm showing you, showing my prediction, should be correct. So I'll add Atlas to my list of things I like. Trafalgar, Atlas, Marist. That's where we're feeling right now. McCormick beats Casey in Pennsylvania in the Senate race. Atlas has, in Ohio, Moreno winning. He's a Republican. So one Democrat, one Republican, so trade-off. Nothing changes. Michigan, they have the Democrat Slotkins winning by a point, so it's inside the margin, but he's winning. In Wisconsin, they've got Baldwin, who's the Democrat, winning, so it's good for the Democrats there, so they're up 2. Montana, there's no contest, it's Montana. The Republicans up by 11, no shock there. So Democrats up 1 overall. Klobuchar's winning Minnesota. It's not a race at all. No surprise there. So still Democrats are up by 2. Kane's handily beating Cow in Virginia. He's up by 9. So up 3. Cruz is winning up by 7. So up 2 for Democrats. Rosen's winning in Nevada, up 3 again. Gallego is likely to win, but it's a tie, so they're not calling it. They have another poll that's by The Hill and Emerson, where Gallego is winning by 5, and it's Democrat. So regardless, they seem to be leaning the Democrat winning there. So 6 Democrat Senate seats wins. Yeah. There's, 30-something of them? So they're not showing all of them. The last Florida for Scott versus McCarcel-Powell. Scott is winning by 3, so he's probably within the margin, but he's winning. Also Brooks versus Hogan. This is Maryland. Also Brooks is the Democrat. He's winning by 7, so in the margin. Oh, he's outside the margin. In Maine, King is beating his slew of people. That's not surprising. He typically caucuses with Democrats, so that's 8. And then down 1 from Florida, so 7 up right now. 7 up for Democrats from what I'm seeing in the last couple days of polling. Yeah, there's a lot of the battleground stuff right now. I'm not seeing... They're probably making concessions that there's not much change. So, like... from what I might be seeing here, at least, the Senate Democrats might win. Yeah, Hogan lost a lot of goodwill during COVID. Hogan tried really hard to be anti-Trump, and I think he overplayed his card, thinking that if he could go anti-Trump enough, people would stay voting for him, even though he's Republican. And the problem is like how it was for Democrats, which is like Democrats will beat a blue Democrat with a red Democrat every day, but they'll lose to a red Republican sometimes pretty handily. It's the same issue here. You can be a blue Republican and you'll probably beat a red Republican in the state because it's voting blue a lot, but when you face an actual Democrat, you're probably going to lose. Hogan was popular because he was a very blunt guy, and then he wasted it because he didn't want to challenge Trump on COVID. He was willing to challenge Trump on everything else, but not on COVID. So that's his mistakes. So, okay, so we got bad news in the terms of the presidential, but we've got good news in the Senate. It seems like the Senate probably is leaning Democrat. That's a good way to fetter Trump's insanity. If the Senate goes Democrat, there's a high chance that not much gets done during Trump's first 2 years. Which has been my prediction all along. Trump is an ineffective president who yells really loudly, but he has no allies, so he doesn't govern well. And even all the MAGA Republicans who have gained prominence these last few years, they all don't get along with Trump. Like, he doesn't like Gates at all. He's had public spats with MGT, or MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't even think he endorsed Boebert. So yeah, I don't think the Senate goes Republican, unless the worst thing happens, and then I'm totally right. Like, if I'm wrong on one of these states, then the Senate Democrats should be a thing. If I'm right in all these states, I would hold your breath. You know. But I think based upon how the last couple of years have been for Republicans in Congress, the House will probably stay Republican. That's my 55-45. What it means is my 55% chance I'm right is this. 45% chance I'm wrong and I got something off. That's my wagers usually. I've done it the last 2 major election cycles. And I've been doing that since I stopped believing in... I was watching Fox News today, and they were talking about how polls are dinosaur. We shouldn't rely on them anymore. We should go back to the days when the campaigns told us what to feel and how the campaign's going. And I was like, man, if I go back to that day, I remember sitting in the college dorm with Shaman's sister talking about the 2012 election and if Romney was going to win. And I let myself be like, feel good, like, oh yeah, Romney's a nice guy, he's a Mormon, kind of weird for that, but he's a really good family man. He's totally got this. And then he got landslided. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that Obama was a competent and charismatic leader. Fuck, why did I believe the hype? And it was like, well, it was easy to believe the hype. Because I was getting beach balled. You know? Don't get beach balled. Don't let the campaigns tell you what to think. The campaigns want you to think they're right. But, I mean, if I was the Kamala campaign right now, I'm fucking panicking. Not publicly, but I'm fucking panicking. And if I'm the Trump campaign, it really feels nice. You feel vindicated. But you've also encouraged your voters to do early voting this time around, and you've encouraged your voters to not be angry and hateful towards their neighbors all the time. I mean, still having issues there, obviously. But back to the 2016 thing of, like, we're here to fight for the country, instead of the 2020, everyone's an enemy logic. Also, Trump has definitely fettered down some of the rhetoric about whether or not he would, give up power. He was literally talking about, once I leave office in 4 years, from one of his speeches tonight. Like, that the politicians might basically screw you once I'm gone, but at least you'll have 4 years of someone you can trust. So, he's walked off that precipice at least. So, Nebuchadnezzar's learning. I just don't know why Kamala's not. I wish I could tell you more if you like Kamala. Hello, Undone. Welcome on in. If you like politics, I hope you have good news in the fact that tomorrow night will be contentious. It might be close. It might be ugly. So you should vote. This is not me telling you shouldn't vote, your opinion doesn't matter. This is me showing you, by data, you should vote. Doesn't matter what state you're in. You might think, oh, my vote doesn't matter because I'm in a stronghold state, Republican or Democrat. Fuck you, vote. You might prove something weird wrong. You should at least make sure you're voting for your congressman or senator. Even if you can't change your state on the presidential side, if you can make your congressman or your senator go into office, you should try. And officially, my only stance is fuck incumbents. Incumbents can't be trusted. Already voted, but it seems obvious at this point that we're in for a Harris landslide. Oh. I respect your hope. I don't want to dissuade you because I'm glad you voted. I don't agree. That's the beauty of America. I think the polling data is not going well. I think the youth vote isn't being mobilized like it should be for Harris. I think Harris has shown some strategic weaknesses in winning battleground states. I think her campaign hasn't learned lessons that Biden didn't learn, and I don't think you don't win Iowa as done without being 2008 levels of landslide. You saw the Des Moines registry thing too? Okay. So as far as the Des Moines registry thing is cool and interesting, and it definitely is an outlier. My concern with that is it is an outlier. Like, all the polling in Iowa had Trump winning by 5 points outside the margin of error prior to this point. And I'm not attacking you for you thinking that way. It's really easy to hope. And it's good to have that and cling to it. But it's okay if it doesn't work out that way. Remember, the country will still exist on November 6th, 2024. The country will still exist on January 20th, 2025. And the country will still exist on, November 7th or 8th, 2028. The polls are unreliable. Trump's campaign said that in 2020 and they lost. Hillary's campaign said that in 2016 and they lost. Due to hurting. If you hadn't started off with saying that you were ready for a Harris landslide, I would think you're like my grandfather undone. I'm so serious. I love it. I love it. I love the energy in this country sometimes with no, the data can't be right. Who's saying that now? The person above you. It says undone. There's I love it. I love optimism. Keep it. Outside of politics, too. Weaponize it in the rest of your life. I'm a data nerd. I am, too. I have worked in government, and I have worked in political science. I've worked in politics directly for most of my adult life. Is Trump or Harris going to say that? What? Oh, no, I was saying my grandfather would say the polls are unreliable. I think Harris will say... Harris has said something about polling being unreliable, unironically. Considering if I die, they get the trifecta, I'd say I'm betting my life on it. Okay. I had a friend who's in Tennessee reach out to me this week and talk to me about a concern he had. He is a cis man, and he's been concerned about some of his LGBT students, because he's a teacher, he's a professor at a university. And my stance officially is this. Assume you're right. The best way to stop the violence you think will happen is to help found an underground railroad kind of system. Time to repeat the good news of the Senate. Oh yeah, Senate Democrats are up 7 seats, so even if Trump wins the White House, I don't think the Democrats are going to lose the Senate, which means that Trump will be an ineffective president for 2 years. The ACA allows me to get my medication. If it's repealed, I die. It's not violence. No. I'm not saying you're going to commit violence. I'm saying violence done against you. My professor friend has trans students specifically, and they're worried about their safety. Is gay and lesbian students worried about their safety? And my stance was, if you're truly worried about that fear, if you think it's tangible and real, it's palpable to you, you should be helping found an underground railroad style system to get those students out of the state that you're in that you think will hurt them to states that you know are in their best interest. Which led to a discussion of like, are there universities in Illinois and California that your students could take like a year internship in that'd be beneficial for them with the degree they're working on? And he's like, I think so. Let me go look into that. And he started feeling more optimistic about it because if you assume the worst is going to happen, you're an American. You know the government's not going to topple immediately. We're not the Weimar Republic. You know you still have the Constitution and it will still principally defend you. You know you still have the right to move between states. You still know that there are states that are medically beneficial to you if you need ACA to survive, for instance. You know there are states that are beneficial to your existence. You should start investigating the alternative of getting to those states where you can. I mean, in my case, there is nowhere in the country that resolves that issue. If ACA is keeping you alive, California should have the same provisions on the slate that ACA gives you. New York has those. Illinois has those. Even Virginia has a lot of ACA provisions that would keep you alive foundationally if ACA disappeared tomorrow. Mostly because in Virginia, the government has a perverse interest in protecting itself. So we have an interest in making sure government personnel get good access to medicine, stuff like that. So if ACA is helping you get it, as in like it's coming from a foreign company or something like that, California, Oregon, Washington, Virginia, Illinois, New York, Illinois. Cali doesn't allow pre-existing conditions in their law. I have money, but 28K, 8 weeks too much if they exclude my shot. Cali doesn't allow for pre-existing conditions in their law? That's wild. When did they do that? It's, I mean, so they would have to walk back the provisions that have now been put in place and enshrined by law. Covered California as I just like. Sure, it says that they can't deny it to you now, but I don't imagine that if tomorrow ACA disappeared, Californian lawmakers would let that be a thing. Yeah, that's what I see. When ACA passed and they revamped it, yeah. But I think the thing is like, with California specifically, if ACA was gone tomorrow, California law isn't going to regress immediately. California law, like all law systems, all institutions of law, is slow to change. So what's going to happen is they're not going to revamp the system to go back to what it was. They're going to go, the status quo is okay for now until someone fucks it up. Is when I miss I shot by 1 week, I cannot take it again as I become immune. What? Oh, again. Republicans talked a good game about getting rid of ACA, and the most they did was get rid of the tax provision in 2020. They spent all of 2019, not 2020, 2016. So 2016, 2017, Trump had everything. He had both houses. He could do anything that he wanted, quote unquote. And in the 2 years he had power to do anything he wanted in ACA, the most they did was remove a tax provision. They were one vote away from killing it, yes, but it was a Republican who voted to protect it. And it wasn't John McCain, it was some other Republican. So, like, I get there's the fear, the palpable fear. I will remind you, the Senate is likely to go Democrat. So that palpable fear of ACA getting thrown away, yeah. I don't think that was on ACA. I think it was on something else. But if it was ACA, McCain. It's very classic McCain. But Senate is likely to go to the Democrats. It's just my view of it, looking at the last set of polling on the elections for Senate seats. So even if Trump wins, he can't kill ACA. He can defund it technically, but all that would do causes Congress to have a crisis, and then they would fund it. So, like, as long as Democrats hold the Senate, which they should, I don't see ACA being overturned. I see Trump bitching about it a bunch, and then moving on to immigration, you know? I think you're probably putting a swear. I have moderation on, so that's the reason why the asterisks are popping up. I'm not auto-modding you intentionally, but you are being auto-modded. I don't want to be doomsayery, though. I like optimism. I am very pessimistic by my nature, though. I like optimism on an individual level. I think I understand your concern. I think it's real and palpable. I think it's understandable to be frustrated by a system that doesn't want you to live. I don't have diabetes, but I am taking Ozempic, and I hate that I had to pay $350 every 3 months to basically lose weight. Because my body chemically does not want me to lose weight. It helps me keep my appetite and fight eating. But my stomach has been, for most of my life, conditioned to just eat and not know that I am hungry or not. And even with Ozempic on it, like, I still don't know if I'm hungry ever. But my gut gets tight now. It never did. Um, Without ACA, I mean, my Ozempic will probably become extremely unaffordable. But the issue is like, mine is Crohn's, so yeah. Yeah, I have a friend with Crohn's disease who is a staunch Trumpist. He is from a wealthy family, but the minute he wound up as an adult on his own, he is a struggling writer. And I don't know how he juggles that paradox of personalities, because he's never been involved in the campaign. He's gotten close at times, but he never got himself in the campaign. So he doesn't have access to money. So I don't. People with their political views are weird, you know. A lot of Americans, and this is true international too. A lot of voters in general vote against their own interest every time. This is why I talk about the mob. I don't trust the mob. It's really easy to get bought into belief about things. It's why, like, I understood your optimism about a Harris landslide, and I don't agree, but I love the optimism because it means you're energetic about the election. You're politically active. That's great. Keep it. Even when this election may go wrong for you, don't stop fighting. You have your duty as an American to fight for what you think is right in this country, which is by being politically active. And you can be politically active not by voting alone, but by getting involved in party politics. You can get active by supporting NGOs. Haha, I know you've scolded me before for that, Zell, voting against myself. Yes! Plenty of people do it. It's painful. And I don't pretend that I'm better than that. Like, I'm objectively not poor. Our house is objectively between 200 and 200, but I'm not rich enough to go red. Yeah, no, that's... I have a nice government salary, so like my life will be the same today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. I like to think I got smarter this go. I think a lot of people hope they got smarter. I'm not saying one way or another people did or not. I think there's been a lot of frustration at the current election cycle, and not just because it's Trump. I think Harris and Walz did some really bad marketing decisions for their campaign early on, even after they took it, and then before when Biden was running. God, when Biden was a candidate, was there a lot of frustration. And so, like, I feel like there was an urge in America to just give the fuck up, and then things got better a bit, and people are really trying to hold on to it, and I want political turnout high. It would be a pipe dream, but it'd be really cool if we could crack like 50% voter turnout in this country. And I feel like this might be a golden opportunity for it. We got it during the pandemic, technically, but it'd be nice to show it wasn't just a fluke. It wasn't just because it was convenient to vote at that time. It'd be nice if it was because people were actually energetic about politics again. And undone, I'm religious, so I wish I could do more for you. I'll pray for you. And that's not the haha go fuck yourself, like I'll pray for you. It's more like a Jesus Christ, I can't help you in any way, shape, or form, and I feel awful about it. I know what Crohn's disease does to someone. I know you can wind up just in bed for days, weeks, unable to function. And my well of empathy goes out to you, because I don't know your struggle, but I know how bad it can be. And I'm sorry, Politics is mean like that. There are going to be people who suffer with our decisions. Which I think is the thing most people don't think about with politics in general, is that you're voting a lot of times in your own interest, you think. And sometimes you do. Literally physically collapsed on my right hand. Validating my point, my friend who has Crohn's was in England studying in 2014. And he didn't know he had Crohn's and had a blackout. And was inside their medical system, and he had to fight with every inch of his American status to not have the UK medical system rip out his liver. Because in the UK, with Crohn's disease, they just get rid of the bad organ and then, hook you to machines for life to keep you alive, kind of thing, like dialysis and shit like that. And he was terrified of that. He's like, if I can get to America, I don't mind paying for pills I don't know. I don't care if I suffer. I just don't want to literally be hooked up to a machine for the rest of my life. And he spent 4 months stuck in a hospital bed while also fighting for his ability to get the hell out of the UK. So I know Crohn's disease is no joke. I know it's a fucking nightmare, and I am sorry. It's up there with diseases I don't wish on people. You know, I work with American troops to make bad people go bye-bye, and save good people. And I even with making bad people go bye-bye, I tend to not be like gleeful about it because it's death. Death is not something to be gleeful about. Death is a passenger on a train it can't get off of. Why hate it for it being there? And diseases that are like that are basically terminal. They're chronic is what we call them, because you can live with it for the rest of your life, but it's going to get you in the end. That's haunting. That can be, I'm sure it was shaking to your entire life. Hopefully it was a later diagnosis and not one that you got when you were freshly an adult. I hope it's been, you released an adult for a few years. But I know, regardless of when it happened, the cycle you saw yourself on your life probably changed drastically, and that sucks. There's no way about it. There's no nice things. 30, yeah. Again, just I have a well of empathy. I wish I could do it for you. If I knew you in person, I'd hug you. I'd cry with you. I'd sit with you. I'd pray with you. You know, I'd go take you to the hospital if you needed a ride. Unfortunately, I'm online. The best I can do for you is help you look up resources or talk about state laws that could help you. Illinois doesn't have a great medical system. Virginia's is kind of punishing if you don't have money. California's not on the table. Have you looked at Washington or Oregon? Both of them have decent medical systems. Oh shit, there's a weird red state that has a good medical system, and I can't remember if it's Nebraska or Kansas. It's a state you would just not think about it having good medical, and it does. It's just like one that you would not just guess at all. Maybe it's fucking Oklahoma? I can't remember. And it's less that it's the systems, institutions are good, it's mostly that the hospitals are really nice. Medical coverage is just a fiscal nightmare. Sad truth is that the only reliable way is Canada. It takes 18. Yeah. And the problem with Canada is, even if you get up there and you get it there, you're still in a queue, which means you may not get it immediately. You'll have access to it, but you may not be first. Which means you still might be waiting. And that's, regardless, it's the problem with state institutions doing medicine in general, is that they don't always favor everyone. Let's go! Now the entire other side of the aisle. Let's go! American democracy at its finest. Anyway. Keep it civil in my chat. I'll ban both of you if you don't. I don't have a hard opinion one way or the other. It looks like Trump will win. It looks like the Senate will stay Democrats, and it looks like the Congress, like the House, is going to be a nightmare. So, if you don't want Trump to win, vote for your Senate election. Get out there and turn out for your Senate seats, because that'll stop pretty much all of his policies in place. If you want Trump to win, you need to do a lot of groundwork battles. There's a lot of libs are so angry and sad, lol. It just really depends. I've met some conservatives in my life. I play role-playing games with them. They're slow dudes until we talk politics. And then, literally one of them in our group chat tonight was like, that Algerian boxer is a man. And I was just like, that was the Olympics. Are we still on that? Are we still on that? I'm really confused. Where did that come from? And I found out it was because Trump said something about it tonight. I'm like, okay. Whatever. Whatever. I just want to roll dice and do math. I play role-playing games, and I look at politics for the fun of the math of it. When it comes to political opinions, I find both candidates frustrating. I work with military people. The current administration and Kamal being tied to it frustrates me with Afghanistan. That being said, Trump is the one who made the deal with the Taliban, so I'm not going to pretend that I like him any better than I like Harris, and Because, wow, the Taliban are scumbags. Why would you ever make a deal with them? But, hey, that's just me and my angry, I work with military personnel stance. Yeah. There's appeals to both of them. You could probably go down the route of, the Harris Walls White House wall will be probably a cluster, so much so like the Trump one. At least everyone will be smiling. But with the Trump one, it'll be WWE. You'll have people coming out being like, I'm actually the chief of staff all over again. No, I'm actually the chief of staff. No, I'm actually the chief of staff. Because, Trump went through 4 chiefs of staff in a year. So I think in general, both are going to be stupid nightmare. So don't get too hung up on my one will win and be awesome. Because both suck. Just be glad that the Constitution prevents people from really fucking around and finding out too hard, and that the 2 major institutions of this country, the military and our water and power infrastructure, don't require a president to be competent. It's just the right fact of it. Be grateful that every day you wake up, you have power and water, and you don't need to have a president who matters to keep those running. And be grateful every day that you wake up, and the fact that soldiers have guns and can protect our country still exists, because even if the president is an idiot and endangers American troops, there's still plenty of provisions out there due to the core teachings we give our soldiers that command and leadership happens at the local level. So if something goes fucky, boys on the ground are the first ones to deal with it anyway, not the president. So, and shamans in the military, he could probably confirm those 2 stances. I'm just saying, you don't need to have a competent president. You could get intensely depressed about this election tomorrow. Don't. Just try not to. Because you have been told for years the president really matters. The president matters on a couple different things. If we go to war, if we have a tight bill that requires a margin of a tie, the president matters a lot. But the president really doesn't matter when it comes to daily function. Congress has shown that with the failure to pass an omnibus resolution for funding. The president doesn't matter. The president just sits there and goes, oh, fuck, the Congress didn't pass a bill again. Guess we're not turning on the lights, quote unquote. And yet we still turn on the lights and we still do our jobs in the government. So clearly having a budget doesn't make the American empire stop functioning. You all believing that your votes matter and having a participation. Don't get me started with regard to working without pay. Hey, homie, because of the crisis work, I was told I'd have to do that too if we didn't get funded earlier this year. So I'm there with you. You're good. What was I saying? Fuck. Oh, optimism. Just remind yourself that no matter how bad you feel about tomorrow night, there is a day that happens the day after. And you have time, and you have energy, and you have the will to fight to make sure that your daily life you want to protect and you're voting about stays that way. Don't give up on your local politics. Get involved in your city councils. Figure out NGOs in your area that support your interest. If you care about veterans, fucking get involved with homeless shelters. If you give a fuck about medical expenses, figure out where some of your co-ops are that help support sharing expenses. There's a lot of, post-ACA, there were a lot of medical co-ops that popped up that are technically insurance, but the principal idea is that you have a really hard time and you can't pay your insurance bill. The co-op helps cover the gap. The idea is you owe debt to the co-op. But in principle, most of them are meant to make sure that old people don't die. And people like yourself, undone with chronic disease, don't suffer, you know. Virginia, Illinois, Indiana all have co-ops of some variety. Maybe you don't like the institutions running those co-ops, but sometimes we have to settle for what we need, not what we want. And if there's a medical co-op that does insurance coverage that helps you get your medical stuff paid for when ACA falters, I mean, hopefully it helps bridge the gap. What's this budget we speak of? Continuing resolution, what? 17? I can't remember what the actual CR is. Yeah. Just fight. Fight for what you think is right. Fight to protect what you have in this life. Fight to protect the ones around you love and care for. And try to be merciful and forgiving to the people you think cross you. Your fellow Americans are not your enemy. You can make fun of them for their politics today and tomorrow, but on Wednesday, when the day wakes up, your priority should be making sure your neighbor is happy, healthy, and alive, not that you beat them. I think that's a positive message. I hope Americans around the country believe that. It's hard to believe that. I think the politics gets ugly. But if you need to remind yourself that right now is not more awful than it was in the past, let me remind you that in the second presidential election in the country, guessing I'll be skipping the Jello shot board tomorrow night. I mean, you could do it. You could go for it, Shaman. But I think you'll be blasted before 9 o'clock. So I don't know if you want to be out that early. But if you want to remind yourself that politics isn't the nastiest it's ever been, don't believe that shit. In the 1800s, specifically, in the second presidential election, when John Adams was, I'll be really drinking. It's fair, Vanina. I'll stream tomorrow night, and I'll be having at least like a wine cooler of sorts down there. I got some Imperial Berry flavor. It's Angry Orchard. I got some of that, and then the duck got some orange flavored stuff that was like a Smirnoff Ice. I might drink that. I stream tomorrow. But 1801. John Adams is it's not 1801, sorry, it's like 1804 or some shit. John Adams is running for president against Thomas Jefferson. George Washington's obviously stepped down after 2 terms. John Adams was his VP, ran, won his term. It's his second term. He's running. He is trying to get everyone to support him who are Federalists. And Alexander Hamilton goes, I'm not going to support this asshole. I just died a little on the inside, Zealot. Oh well. Get over it. I don't drink hard liquor a whole lot. Soju is the devil. Good luck, Vanita. Oh, I have yogurt flavored. Oh, I didn't read that. Oh, why yogurt flavored, Vanita? Oh. Anyway, Alexander Hamilton's approached by John Adams. Endorse me, because he's gonna get his ass kicked by Thomas Jefferson. And Alexander Hamilton's like, I won't endorse you. You tried to violate the Constitution in spirit and imprison people for telling you were wrong. And so Alexander Hamilton gets blasted by John Adams' campaign, his presidential campaign. Mind you, John Adams is blasting Alexander Hamilton, the dude not running against him, just some dude in his own party, and goes, no one should listen to this whore son of a bastard. I don't think Kamala has called Trump a horse son of a bastard. It's really rough when you think about it. That's like it's 1800s. It's foundational. We really think the founding fathers are chill dudes or good ideas. And one of the founding fathers looks at the other founding father and goes, "You're a horse son, and you're a bastard, son of a bastard." That's rough. And we have this view that the 17 to 1800s in America was civil and people did not use vulgar language and in-hostile words and literally in the pamphlets in the streets being like, don't listen to Alex Hamilton, he's a whore son. And if you don't know what I'm saying this. And if you don't know what that means, it means literally the son of a whore. It's a really rough insult, especially in a time and age when genial family stuff matters. It hurt Hamilton a lot, reputationally. That an ally of his supposedly was basically saying, you have no right to exist. Your last name's not actually yours. But he was the one running for office, and guess what happened to Adams? He lost really badly. But I'm just saying, the 1864 election was pretty rough, too. Lincoln was dealing with the Civil War, and one of his generals was like, man, I'm not going to win this war for you, but I will try to win the race against you for president. That's kind of fucked up. Don't have that issue. So, just remind yourself, it's really not as bad as they want you to think it is. And love your neighbor. It's not hard. I mean, your neighbor might be a prick. That's understandable if they are. I know that can be hard to like them, then. Maybe they're that asshole who has a Tesla Fuck them. I get it. I hate Teslas too. I think they're icky looking cars. And maybe your neighbor is a little dick face who drives a Prius. I get it. Priuses suck. Who drives one willfully? Don't hate your neighbor. Maybe your neighbor drives a Ford truck and you just feel they're a racist bigot. I mean, I get it. I hate Ford drivers too. Why would you drive a truck that doesn't work? You should drive a Chevy. Anyway, don't hate your neighbor. Let's follow Apple's model, but apply it to... No, that would be bad. I don't want my car to be broken down into parts, and every one of them be expensive. And in order to be able to drive my car, I need to pay $2,000 after I buy my car for $50,000. I would like to not apply that model. I would like to not John Deere Apple my cars. Anyway, I'm going to be signing off here shortly. I know this is... Some people took tonight, and it's not great news to hear. I hope it motivates you to vote for your interest. As being sarcastic, forgot what the regard Tesla equal. That's fine. You're good. I'm going to be logging off, though. I'm going to make some Dr. Peppy. Ducky and I are going to vote in the morning. Let's go. If you've not voted, remember, vote up until you can be in line. As long as you are in line at your polling station, they cannot send you home. Stay in your polling lines. If you wind up late, vote. Vote like your heart depends on it. This is your local little Fed Eagle man telling you he loves you. He's praying for you. He knows there's a light on the other side of the dark. And when November 6th hap comes around, there's still going to be an America. I mean, you may not like parts of it, but you didn't like those parts before the election, right? The election's not going to change what you like and don't like. Maybe the election highlights what you don't like. But I don't think it changes that. But at the same time, you, like most Americans, know you can just avoid what you don't like. So, work really hard to do that. You don't have to hate each other. I know it's fun to be like, libs, cons, progressives, but it's, but, like, keep it civil. Don't hate each other. Don't do violence. And fucking don't contest the results of the election. Jesus, come on, guys. It's a system. We've been doing it for 200 years. Your guy isn't super important. You know, like, it was cool and all. You guys kicked the door in, and then we're wearing bull moose outs and shit like that. Don't do dipshit like that again. Like, don't get caught up with the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. That's really stupid. You're like, just don't do that. Just don't. Just don't. And if your gal loses, you know, let's try not to lawfare too hard the system. The system works because we all agree that it should work. If we all stop believing that it works, the election's not going to get resolved quickly. And that's part of peace and stability in this country, is that we accept that the results of the election are going to be given to us in as expedient way as possible. Don't be a reason why the system slows down. Be a supporter for it moving quicker. Speaking of which, you can always get involved in your registration teams, not just the parties, but the state, city, county. If you ever feel super motivated for election activities, I will remind you, you can help with running an election in your home area. Most counties look for volunteers on election day. It can be really fulfilling, and some of your jobs will give you time off for doing that. Just depends on the corporate entity. So, get involved. Stay involved. I'm a federal official to some degree. I can't give you my opinion. All I can do is shit on everyone. And try to, at least a mildly unbiased opinion about how data looks to me. You can disagree with my data. You can be like Kamala all the way. You can be like, the data's going even harder. 50-state sweep, Trump all the way. I don't agree with either of those, but you can have that opinion. And we'll circle back around over the next 2 days. I was right in 2016, 2020. I feel like my model, quote-unquote model, is just how I read the data. It's not a model. Don't take it like that. I'm not being serious. There's nothing big here. There's not cool math I'm doing. It's just like me going like, yeah, that data result looks right. Oh, nope, that data result definitely looks fabricated. Why are we even looking at this data, you know? Yeah. I kind of want to just mumble at people. I hope y'all appreciate it. Love y'all. And have a good night. I'm going to see if we can rate into someone. It's not going to be political. You're going to probably see me rate into someone who's doing cute, adorable shit. Oh, shit. It's my wife. We're going to rate into my duck wife. Hell yeah. Take care, Shaman. Thank you, Unduns, for stopping in. Vanina, I love you. Shaman, I love you. Undone, thank you for stopping in and sharing your story, man. Who else stopped in here? Oh, we had Liquid VHS. Interesting name. I remember when VHS was around. Pringles, thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you stopping in, homie. And, yeah. And DJ Coolmaster, I don't know if you're still around listening. I know I didn't play any video games tonight. I know I wasn't doing any strategy games. I understand about that. But I appreciate you stopping in early on, too. I really appreciate loving everyone. My duck wife is doing art. She's a very cute artist. She's doing work on her own model and stuff. So if you are not watching her right now, you should definitely go watch her and join this raid. I appreciate the love and support you've given me tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. We love America, and we want Americans to win. See ya.